Well, welcome back to Confirmation Review. This week we're going to be talking about the fourth commandment, to honor your parents. Now, the way that we're going to be looking at this particular commandment is we're going to be reviewing it in three different ways. First, we're going to talk about the story of King Solomon, who is known for his wisdom and how valuable wisdom was to him. The second way we're going to review is that we're going to talk about what it means to honor your parents and other authority figures, and how we gain wisdom by listening to what they tell us. And third, we're going to learn that honoring parents and authority figures helps us to grow in wisdom and understanding so that we know what God is calling us to be as we go through life. All very important things, so let's dive right in. We're going to start off by talking about King Solomon. So King Solomon is a very important king in the history of Israel. He was the son of King David, if you'll remember. He's the guy we talked about last lesson. And also his mother was a woman named Bathsheba, who we're going to be hearing about in a future lesson. Now, Solomon was known as one of Israel's greatest kings. He was well known for this. He was known all over the Bible for this. And he was remembered as being great for the usual reasons. You know, he was rich, he was powerful, he kept peace on the borders. He was a great commander of the army, and of course he built great buildings, including the temple in Jerusalem, one of his most important buildings that he built. But Solomon is also known for one other reason, and that is his wisdom. See, when Solomon was first crowned king, God asked him what he wanted most for his kingship. Just ask and I will give it to you. That's what God says. And Solomon, rather than asking for power or authority or anything else that a king might be expected to ask for, asked for wisdom so that he might be a good king, a wise king over his people. And he knew that in wisdom was the place where you could make good decisions to make sure that other people's lives are taken care of. And it was a really important thing for him to want as the king. Solomon is so well known, in fact, for his wisdom that there are three whole books in the Bible that people say he wrote just because they are what we call wisdom literature. They're things that help us be wise. And the first one is the book of Proverbs, which is just a whole series of short little phrases that help us to see the world in a different way, that help us grow in wisdom whenever we read them. There are 30 chapters in the book of Proverbs, so it's always a wise idea to take a month maybe and read one chapter of Proverbs each day for a month, and I guarantee you'll be a little bit wiser at the end of it. But they have these great phrases in the book of Proverbs, including one who is quick-tempered acts foolishly, and like a maniac who shoots deadly firebrands and arrows, so is the one who deceives his neighbor and says, I am only joking. Or, one of my favorites, if you have found honey, eat only enough for you, or else, having eaten too much, you will vomit it. Yes, that's really in there. Another book that Solomon wrote is a book called Ecclesiastes. Now, if you've ever been to a funeral, you have probably heard from one of the parts of Ecclesiastes. To everything there is a season and a purpose for everything under heaven. And this is a great book that reminds us that there is purpose in life, but that purpose is not found in flashy things or the fast life. Solomon is said to have reflected on his life and written this book to help other people know what they should really be pursuing with their life. It's a great book to remember. And the last book that we have, allegedly by Solomon, is called The Song of Solomon, which is less pithy phrases or wise sayings and more of a poem about love. And it helps us to see what love looks like and how love feels whenever we read it. It has these wonderful phrases like, love is as strong as death, passion as fierce as the grave. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. It's a wonderful book that is also a great one to sit down and read. It doesn't take too long. Solomon spent his entire life seeking wisdom because he knew what it was worth. Wisdom is what happens when you train your mind to make good decisions. Wisdom isn't something that just happens to you. You don't just overnight suddenly become wise. You have to grow in wisdom. And you grow in wisdom by paying attention to the world around you, and especially to certain people. Solomon saw the value in that, and that's why he's remembered as being so wise. So long as he paid attention to others, Solomon was really good at knowing what was valuable in the world. So Solomon is a bit of an odd duck to start with whenever we're talking about honoring your parents, right? Well, after all, I only mentioned Solomon's parents right at the beginning, and I didn't talk about them any point afterwards. So, what does that have to do with honoring your parents? What does Solomon have to do with it? Well, that's what it comes down to, is that honoring your parents is recognizing the wisdom that they have to share with you. See, honor your parents means more than just listening to them when they tell you something. It means a lot more than just love them no matter what. It goes deeper than just tolerating their rules and expectations or doing things that will make them proud. To honor your parents means to realize that they have lived entire lives before you ever showed up, and that they have had experiences in that life that they want to share with you to help you be able to make wise decisions. You honor your parents by valuing the wisdom they can give you because they've been through those things already. And that looks like paying attention when they tell you what you need to do. They already know that driving stupidly on your ATV or snowmobile is dangerous because they've already gotten the broken bones, and they want to keep you from that hard lesson. They already know that caring too much about what other people think doesn't make you happy, and that being made fun of for being unique won't last forever. They already know the signs of an unhealthy friendship or a toxic relationship because they have already been there. You honor your parents by realizing that what they are telling you and how they are guiding you comes from a place of actually knowing where that kind of behavior or decision goes. And it goes beyond just parents. It goes to elders and authority figures as well. Because they have wisdom that they can share with you, whether it's your teachers, your coaches, your aunts, your uncles, even your pastor. One of the hard things to realize when you are the age that you are, and believe me, I was your age too, is that older people have something worth listening to. There's a lot of stored up wisdom in other people, and by paying attention to their life experience, you won't have to go through the pitfalls they had to take to get that wisdom. It's like how Solomon wrote up all of those nuggets of wisdom and gave those to us in the book of Proverbs, or how he shared his experience of living in the book of Ecclesiastes, or he showed what love looks like in the book of the Song of Solomon. This is the reason why this is the only commandment with a promise at the end, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving to you. There's this promise of if you listen to your parents and your elders and pay attention to the wisdom they're sharing with you, it'll help you live long and live a prosperous life. You won't have to waste time learning the lessons that your parents have already learned if you just listen when they're trying to teach you something. So how does this affect the real world? Well, simply, it's exactly what the commandment promises. By honoring your parents, you will live a long and prosperous life. If you pay attention to the wisdom of your parents and that other elders are giving you, you'll be able to avoid getting trapped in those decisions and those circumstances that they have already taken the time to figure out and get out of. And that way you don't have to waste time there, and you'll be able to make decisions that will lead you to live the way God is calling you to live your life. Hearing their wisdom and knowing how to apply it to your life is kind of like a shortcut that you can take if you only listen to the person giving you directions. So honor your parents when they are telling you something and trust that they know what they're talking about, because it's important for you to pay attention. Listen to teachers and pastors and other authority figures, not because we get it right every time, because we don't, but if you listen, then you'll be able to know how to take their experiences and apply them to your life. Honor your parents by honoring their love for you and honoring their store of experiences and wisdom that they want to share with you. When you listen to your parents and other authority figures, it becomes easier to see how God is calling you to act in your life. Parents are usually the people who know us best, and their advice and wisdom can help us see how God is calling us to love others, care for creation, fight for justice, and make the good news of God's kingdom known in the world. Wisdom that we gain from our parents and other authority figures can help us figure out what we are good at, how we are called to act in the world, and what a life led by God really looks like. But sometimes that's complicated, and we have to sort out the good wisdom from the bad advice. But that too involves listening to others. When we listen to the wisdom of others, then we get better at being able to figure out what is good and what is bad advice, and what is good and what is bad wisdom. And we do that first by listening to our parents and letting them guide us so that we know how to make good decisions on what's good and what's bad. So, to review. First, we heard about King Solomon and all of the wisdom that he shared. Second, we learned about what it means to honor your parents and other authority figures and how we gain wisdom from listening to what they tell us. Third, we learned that honoring parents and authority figures helps us grow in wisdom and understanding so that we can be the people that God has called us to be. And that's what that commandment is all about.